If you've ever been betrayed and told to just get over it, this episode is going to change everything. Hey there. Welcome to Penny's Mind Files Method, the podcast showing you where the off ramp to the healing highway is when you're stuck on the life sucks road that goes nowhere. In this episode, we're going to dig into healthy ways to let go of anger. Everybody has anger that is attached to old narratives that describe an experience where you felt wounded. And anger crops up in new experiences too. So we have to have a game plan to dump the anger before it takes up residence in our body. Did you know that according to Chinese medicine, which has been around for thousands of years, they believe that anger is stored in the liver. The liver is responsible for metabolism and energy management. Now, in this context, I mean cellular energy, a biochemical function, not personal energy, although it's all kind of connected. But anyway, the liver is your detoxification and filtration system, keeps your blood pure from all the toxins in the environment and our food system. And it breaks down medications and alcohol. It's part of the digestive process too and stores nutrients, some of them. It's an important part of physiological function. So if you stuff a lot of anger, well, it's going to show up in your body, isn't it? I know it certainly did for me. So it's important rather to find a way to release it, to let it go. The anger that you feel when somebody betrays your trust is real and it's valid and it needs to be expressed, but not in a retaliatory way because then it's only going to come back to you bigger than it was when you sent it out. So let's look at what happens when files that have anger attached to them that were created in your childhood get referenced in your adult life. Uh, let's say that you're in your 20s, you're engaged to a person that you believe was the love of your life. It's big love, isn't it? This is the person I was meant to be with. You feel it. You don't really know why. Anyways, you're engaged and you're wearing this big ring and you're feeling happy, you're ecstatic. Of course, you have disagreements, and that's all normal because you realize that everybody argues. So instead of really digging into why you disagreed and looking at the situation objectively, taking the time to find the root cause, you just let it go and you move on. Speaking of letting go and moving on, you've heard that phrase, right? Just get over it. So there's a couple of things about that. The more you hear it, the more those words are going to trigger guilt files in your fear cabinet. And remember, every time that a mind file is referenced, your mind's process reinforces it just by the reference. That means it adds another emotional filter to that file, which strengthens it. This is super important because you might have hundreds of files that have guilt attached to them. And if you allow that phrase to move into those files in your fear cabinet, well, you're going to be ruled by guilt, well, until you choose to work through those files and resolve them. The second thing is about this just get over it phrase. Um, it blocks narratives from going into your love file if you accept it, specifically the one that has to do with self worth. So when you let something go and move on, you're saying that the person who said or did whatever they said or did to you is more important than you. You're self abandoning, you're sacrificing you and how you feel for them. And that is an act that is motivated by guilt and shame. Now, before you say, well, aren't we supposed to forgive? Well, sure we are. But forgiveness isn't about letting go and moving on. It's a process of working through the painful mind file, first of all, understanding why you allowed whatever happened to you to happen to you. In my Mind Files method, I use the emotional filter frequency scale to demonstrate how we unknowingly send out signals that tell the universe to bring us more of those experiences and the ones that wound us. The emotional filter frequency scale, or I'll sometimes just abbreviate it as an EFFS, is the ladder that your emotions climb and drop as you work through a wound. So every emotion sits at a different vibratory level, and the lower the frequency, the more likely you are to repeat painful patterns. So guilt, which is way at the bottom, is one of our biggest motivators. We're taught to extend mercy and grace, and that is important. We should do that. But people misunderstand the whole turn the other cheek message from Jesus. Jesus doesn't want you to be a doormat. God doesn't want you to be a doormat. That's not what your purpose is in this life. The whole point of Jesus's ministry was to teach you that you matter and to understand yourself so that you can better understand others. Because when you have that kind of understanding, you know deep down in your core that when people are attacking you or criticizing you, that it's a product of that person's perception, or rather their distorted perception. It doesn't have anything to do with you. So you turn the other cheek, because let them say whatever they want, because their words are a reflection of their distorted mind file. If you haven't yet watched or listened to episodes 14 or 18 or 19, like find them and listen or watch whatever method you prefer, because it's that those will also help you understand this message here. Okay, so back to our example. So you're engaged to be married and you think everything is awesome, and then one day you discover he cheated on you. Now, first you feel shocked, you're flabbergasted, you're stunned. How could this have happened? Doesn't he love me the way I love him? How could he do this? How is this being loyal? The more you think about it, the more feelings you start to move through. You're disgusted. In your mind, you're imagining the act of the betrayal, and that brings up feelings of jealousy. Then you get angry with yourself for feeling jealous. The argument in your mind goes something like, why am I jealous? It should be her that's jealous of me because I'm the one wearing the ring. Then that reminds you that you are wearing a ring and that he broke the oath to commit, which reminds you that you were betrayed, and the negative feedback loop goes round and round and around. And during this time, basically, you are vibrating consistently in grief. Then he apologizes. I'm so sorry. It all just happened so fast. And I was drunk and it didn't mean anything. She doesn't mean anything. And because you want to believe him, because after all, he's the love of your life, right? You want to forgive him because if you don't, well, then what? So this is when the second stage starts and you move from grief up the EFFS to fear. You start thinking about and you start to realize that all your dreams, the beautiful home that you were going to create together, the family you were going to have, the children you were going to raise together, these are all at risk now. You could lose those dreams. You remember all the vacations that you've had and the ones that you're planning on taking. You start to think about all the parties that you've gone to. They were such good times. And now you move back down the scale into grief. Then sadness envelops you, and your heart feels as though it's sunk somewhere into this bottomless pit, and you feel empty, and you feel defeated and imperfect. The life that you thought you were going to have with this person who was the love of your life, well, what happens now? Now you go back up to fear. What are all your friends going to think? What are your parents going to say? What am I going to do now? Am I going to lose my dream? Eventually, you move up to anger. You tell him you can't stand to be in the same room with him. You need time to think things through. Your thoughts are racing around. How could he have done this to me? Who is this girl, anyways? And how did he meet her? And what did he think was going to happen when I found out? And who else knows about this? A week or two or three, however long, passes, and he convinces you to go out to dinner with him. And now you enter the negotiation stage. In this stage, your energy is up and down, right? Up and down the emotional filter frequency scale, up and down like a toilet seat. And one day you think you've worked through it all, and the next you're so angry you can barely think. But he tells you that he's never going to do it again. He pleads with you to give him another chance. After all, he loves you more than anything. He's triggered a guilt file. Not that you have anything to feel guilty about. You didn't cheat on him, but his pleading is triggering guilt feelings, and you're guilty for being angry, right? That's ultimately what happens. He's told you he loves you and he promises never to do anything like that again. And the more he pleads his case, the more guilt and shame you feel for being angry and mad and judgmental. You and you feel guilty for not wanting to give him a second chance. But now you are way at the bottom of the EFFS, and this is where you are the most vulnerable. Because when you're vibrating way down there, you are easily convinced, you're manipulated into doing something that you're not sure that you want to do. Now there's internal conflict because how does that reflect respect for you, his actions, right? Like, don't you matter? So that's really what's you feel, but the guilt is overpowering it. Why? Because how many mind files is there a guilt filter in? So, of course, you matter, he tells you. So you stuff the anger, you stuff the shame, you stuff the guilt, you stuff the apathy, you stuff everything because you're just feeling like you're crushed. You give in because you don't want to be the bad guy. You want to be the bigger person. That's another one, like, just get over it, right? Be the bigger person. Give him a second chance. Everybody makes mistakes. All those kinds of sayings trigger guilt. So you've successfully been guilted into sacrificing your feelings for somebody else, this love of your life. And that creates a resentment file that might not get addressed, like reviewed and reassessed and resolved for a lot of years, right? You've now gone on with the original plan because after all, he is the love of your life and he'll never going to do it again. And all that pain stays stuffed in your body. Now, eventually, that sadness and grief and those feelings of betrayal, they eventually like fester until they're rage. But now you're married with two kids. And even though you have this nagging feeling, like you feel like, well, I think he's done this again and again and again. But you don't even bring it up because what about the kids? When you're in the thick of something like this, you really feel like you're alone, but you're not. Thousands of men and women, really, who find themselves in a situation very similar to the one I'm describing. So, what do you do? Well, some women stay until the kids are grown. Some people leave, right? Everybody has to choose what's best for them. But here's the thing, the most important thing to do is get rid of the anger and resentment you're holding on to, because making a decision when you're vibrating at the bottom half of the EFFS won't elevate you to a higher vibratory place and then change your life situation. So when you make a decision from the same vibratory place, right, that keeps you stuck. So you're going to invite more, right? I mean, at best, you'll move laterally and you might find some temporary relief. but you're still in the same vibratory place as you were. So the mind files that allowed you to enter into a relationship with somebody who didn't respect you to begin with, those files are still active. So until they're resolved, you're going to find yourself in more relationships that are the same. This is one of those things that I think of often now, and I wish that I would have figured out years ago because I made a lot of big life decisions vibrating in anger and rage. And while I did find temporary relief when I made those decisions, in the long run, nothing changed because the anger just was temporarily looked after. I was still vibrating in it, right? It was simmering inside of me. It may not have been boiling, but it was definitely simmering for a lot of years. So, how do you get rid of the anger in a healthy way? Well, there's a few ways to get it out of your body. You can do some kind of high intensity exercise. It's great, right? It allows you to release the anger in a productive way. But this is a temporary fix because, again, the root cause isn't being addressed. Lots of people choose to do a low intensity, something like yoga. I just got to breathe. And those are, again, good things. They help calm your body down. And it's great because you need to have those calm moments. Otherwise, your body's going to overload. You're going to burn out. But again, it doesn't address the root cause. It's a band aid, a temporary fix. Both of these things, the high intensity, low intensity, they're beneficial because they help you address the physiological aspects, but they don't address the root cause. So, journaling is a great way to work through your thoughts and your feelings about everything, and it's a good start. But ultimately, to really get rid of the anger, you have to give yourself permission to write down in your journal what you really feel without guilt. I call this rage writing. You see, even when we journal, our mind's process is referencing mind files. And when we're angry, it's referencing the files that remind us to be good. Weird, right? Rage is considered bad by most people. But is it really? See, here's where things get murky, right? You may not be aware of this, but how we determine good and bad comes mainly from Christian teachings in the New Testament, specifically from the famous Sermon on the Mount. The problem is that many people receive and then taught these messages through a guilt based lens. And that's why the important messages get murky. So I'm going to read from the New Living Translation Study Bible, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. This is from the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus says, "You have heard that our ancestors were told, 'You must not murder. If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment.' But I say, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell." Then a little further down, he says, "You have heard the law that says the punishment must match the injury, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say, do not resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek also." Well, that's a pretty heavy message about anger, isn't it? It's basically telling you that you're bad if you're angry, and if you're feeling rage, well, you're going to rot in hell. But here's the thing. Prior to this message, here's what Jesus said: "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall possess the land. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after justice, for they shall have their fill. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they shall see God." All of these messages come before the part that talks about getting vengeance and being angry. So when you're poor in spirit, where are you on the EFFS? You're at the bottom. And God's love, right? Well, look where that is. If you're vibrating at that frequency, well, then you're moving towards the kingdom of heaven. If you're meek, what does that mean? Well, at the very least, you're sending and receiving through a neutral lens. You can't be feeling angry, guilty, sad, afraid, empty, and be meek at the same time. If you're mourning, you're in grief. Look where that is, just below fear, 3 steps below anger. So when you're in this state, what do you do? You're looking for comfort. You're reaching for, you're craving, and you're longing, which is 2 steps above sadness and grief. You're reaching to be understood, to be accepted, for your feelings to be validated, right? The last one, blessed are the clean of heart, for they shall see God. Well, how do you clean your heart? You clean it by working your way through all the feelings attached to all the narratives in the mind files in your fear cabinet, all the ones that have anger and rage and guilt and shame, all of them, and resolving them. So you're not bad. You're human, and you need to get rid of all of that out of your mind and your body. So write it all down. Rage right. Write about wanting to kick that cheating, disrespectful jerk in the balls. Write about wanting to punch him in the face. Dedicate pages to what you would say and do to the girl who cheated with him on you. This is how you cleanse that anger. It's not just writing down, gee, I was really mad. Those kinds of sentences don't get rid of the anger. Writing down how you would punish, that's how you get rid of the rage from your mind and your body. Rage writing allows the body's sympathetic nervous system to activate the energy that's been trapped in your body for however long that you've been carrying around these mind files. Being honest in and with your anger sends signals to your mind and body that you're honoring yourself. And that starts the process of working your way up the emotional filter frequency scale all the way through pride. Because think about it. What really gets wounded, right? It's your pride because you thought you mattered. In our example, you thought you mattered to him. And when he cheated on you, he broke the commitment to love only you. You realized that you didn't really matter to him. And that's really where that rage comes from. You see, writing about it, getting the yuck out, that's what I call it, getting the yuck out. This is part of the process that cleanses your heart. As the yuck lifts away, then you start to gain the courage to move even further up the EFFS past neutral to willingness and acceptance. Because now you're opening to learning the hows and whys of all those wounds that you've been carrying around. You have to understand, how did you end up in a disrespectful relationship in the first place? And why did that happen? So you eventually get to willingness, and this is where you start to ponder how to prevent that from happening again. At this stage, you're willing to learn the truth because you've released all that rage and the anger and the guilt and the sadness and whatever else, the grief, when you learned that you poured yourself into an illusion. See, it's the lie that pisses you off. Well, actually, it's the realization that you lied to yourself. That's really the core of your rage. And if you don't go through the process, well, then you're just going to find yourself in, same shit, different pile, right? Because that's where you're going to end up. So, rage right. Get rid of it. Work your way through all those feelings up the emotional filter frequency scale. That's how you really change your life. You deserve to live with a clean heart and a clear mind. And rage writing is one of the most powerful ways to get there. That's it for today. If something lit a light for you, hit that aha. then please hit that thumbs up so that other people can find their way to this educational podcast. And let me know what you think. Get in the conversation. Leave a comment. I really do read every single one, and I really am interested in hearing your thoughts. We'll see you next time.